The age of physical media is over. Grand Theft Auto 6 has no disc, PlayStation is ending physical game production, and everybody is acting like this came out of nowhere. But here's the thing, it didn't. This has been in the making for over a decade, and the real reason behind it has nothing to do with cutting costs or stopping leaks. The truth is a lot more sinister than that. Companies like Rockstar and PlayStation claim they're going digital to cut distribution costs and prevent leaks, and I'm sure that's part of the reason, but if cutting costs was the only motivation behind this move, then why aren't we as consumers seeing any of those savings? Because right now and in the future, you're going to be paying the same price for a digital game that you would be for a physical one, without getting anything that the physical copy of a game actually gives you, like a disc, like a manual, like a case, like the box art. Despite companies paying less for the distribution of these games, we're going to be paying the exact same price as we were before. But to understand why companies like PlayStation and Rockstar, and probably inevitably Xbox, is going to be doing this, you have to go back to where it all started. Because this plan just didn't come out of nowhere. It has been in motion since the early 2010s. If you were gaming in the early 2010s, you've probably encountered at least one game that came with some kind of access pass. Whether it unlocked online features, exclusive DLC, or let's even be honest here, virtual content that shall remain nameless, I'm looking at you, the Saboteur. These were one-time use codes bundled with new copies of a game. Buy the game new and you got the code. If you bought it used and the code was already redeemed, you would have to pay around $10 to unlock what should have came with the game. This wasn't a rare practice. Call of Duty did it with exclusive maps. BioWare did it with Mass Effect 2 and the Cerberus Pass. Almost every sports title was added, and of course Ubisoft was right there in the mix too with their Uplay Pass. The message was clear even if nobody wanted to say it out loud. Publishers didn't want you buying used because they got nothing from those sales. But lock and certain features behind a one-time use code ensured that they would at least get something from the used game market, and for a while it actually worked. But gamers pushed back hard. These passes quickly became the laughingstock of the gaming community, with them eventually disappearing, at least in their most obvious form. The secondhand market survived, at least for the moment, because the attempt to kill the secondhand market didn't stop with online passes. When the Xbox One was first revealed, Microsoft made a decision that sent shockwaves throughout the entire gaming community. Xbox One games would be tied to your Xbox Live account. You could let a friend borrow a game, but only for 30 days, and it could only be traded once. Effectively, the used game market for the Xbox One was going to be dead on arrival. The backlash was immediate and it was fierce. It intensified when Xbox chief Don Matrick responded to concerns about always online requirements by telling people who couldn't connect to the internet that Microsoft had a product for them. It was called the Xbox 360. The arrogance of that comment went legendary for all the right reasons. Due to the backlash, Xbox went back on this policy, and for a while it seemed like maybe consumers had won. But the truth is, the dream that Xbox had, the dream that other companies also had, never truly went away, because the Xbox One would eventually launch the Xbox S model, a digital-only console that had no disk drive. Xbox would continue this pattern with the Xbox Series X having a digital-only version also, and to add to this, even PlayStation hopped on this train, with the PS5 being shipped without a disk drive. These companies' plans had never changed. Instead, they realized they needed to get gamers slowly used to the idea of a digital-only future, one where they could directly control the price of games and get the money for them. And that's exactly what they did. The reason for all of it was always the same. It always comes down to money. If you scroll through any platform store page, you'll find games that are years old still selling at or near the original prices. Publishers hated the fact that people were bypassing those prices entirely by buying secondhand games. The original Xbox One's vision, the one to get rid of the secondhand market, was all about control. And control is exactly what these companies are getting. Somewhere along the way, gamers became complicit. And to be fair, the convenience of digital products was real. There was no waiting in line. There was no worrying about stock. There was no driving to a store. You simply entered your card details on the platform of your choice clicked a button and the game appeared. Companies understood this and leaned pretty hard into it. Ubisoft made the philosophy of these companies explicit when they themselves said publicly that gamers needed to get used to not owning their games. And they weren't wrong about where things were heading. They were just honest enough to say it out loud, while all these other companies were just keeping quiet about it. Because when you buy a digital game, you're not actually buying a game like you are led to believe. Instead, you are buying a license to play it, a license that can be revoked at any time for whatever reason without you getting any compensation for it. If you don't believe me, go to your platform's terms and services, whether that's Steam, whether that's Xbox, whether that's PlayStation, whether that's Nintendo, and read the part about digital purchases. Because as crappy as it is to believe, this is what we are agreeing to when we buy digital products. But on top of everything else, we also have the subscription model when it comes to video game rentals. You probably know what I am talking about: Gamepass, PlayStation Plus, that sort of thing, where companies offer us hundreds of games for a very low price. The only thing is, we need to keep paying that price if we want access to these games. And while it does seem reasonable to pay, say, $20, maybe $30 for something you might only pick up a few times, if you're actually serious about owning a game and being able to play it whenever you want without paying a reoccurring fee, then you can probably see how this model is actually flawed. And these companies try to sweeten the pot even more by giving you day one access to brand new games if you are subscribed to these models. And honestly, it sounds incredible. You're paying a fraction of a price to play a brand new game, until you realize that the moment you cancel your subscription, you lose access to everything you have played. 6 months later, when you want to revisit this game, when a new DLC comes out, when new expansion comes out, when new updates come out, you're going to have to resubscribe. And quickly, that $25, $30 a month suddenly adds up to way more than what you would spend if you actually bought the game outright. Gamers got so comfortable with digital products that a lot of them forgot what they were actually fighting for. But the financial argument is only a part of the problem, because digital only means game preservation is taking a massive step backwards. Games will no longer be able to be emulated the way physical copies can. Companies can remove titles from their storefronts at any time, change content at will, and there's nothing consumers can do about it. You can't preserve a version of a game that a company decides to alter or shut down in this very bleak future. And think about games that run into licensing issues, something we've seen happen multiple times already. When a digital game gets delisted from storefronts due to expired licenses, it will not just become unavailable to new buyers. For many people, it is going to be simply gone. There will be no way to legitimately access it, no physical copies to fall back on. These games will be lost to history. And at the end of the day, when a company decides to change their game, even an offline game, you will be at their complete mercy. There's also the issue of access itself. As someone who lives in a rural area that had internet for years that was barely faster than dial-up, I can tell you that downloading a 4 GB game could take hours, if not a full day. Now imagine somebody that was in my shoes, that never had access to high-speed internet, trying to download a game like Call of Duty on their PlayStation 5. The file sizes we're dealing with today are not 4 GB. They're 60, they're 80, they're 100, they're 250 GB. For millions of people in unserviced areas, that's not an inconvenience. It is a barrier to playing a game they paid full price for. The digital-only future doesn't just hurt your wallet, it shuts people out entirely. Which brings us to more recent news. When I heard that Grand Theft Auto 6 would ship without a physical disc, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even outraged. My honest reaction was, so it's finally happening. Because GTA 6 is the perfect game to normalize this behavior. Rockstar knows people have been waiting years for it. They know millions of copies will sell regardless. They are deliberately using the size and loyalty of their fan base to push through something that would have destroyed any other publisher. And look at some of the people defending this practice. Rockstar has essentially turned their own customers into spokespeople for this policy. And it's even less of a surprise that PlayStation followed almost immediately by announcing they would end disc protection for all future titles starting in January 2028. Some people like me will be furious about this decision, but when a game they desperately want comes out, at the end of the day, they're going to buy it, and they're going to buy it digital because they have no other choice. This is what Rockstar is betting on. This is what PlayStation is also betting on. And here's the part where I admit I'm not entirely innocent in this either, because I am a PC user, meaning all of the games I usually buy are digital. Does that make me a hypocrite? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. But what I do know is that this moment didn't come out of nowhere. It didn't burst into your house like the Kool-Aid Man and slap your mother across the face. This has been in the works for a very long time. The same motivation that drove these access passes, the original Xbox One design, is driving everything we are seeing now. Companies want to get rid of the second-hand market. They want to control the price of their games. They want to decide when it goes on sale, and they want to collect all the money for it without having to pay a retailer or a distributor or the used market taking a cut from their profits. Years from now, when you want to revisit a game from 2026, you'll still be paying close to full price for it, especially if it is a AAA game. All of this, the lead up to these decisions, gamers choosing convenience over actual ownership, reminds me of that episode of South Park where everyone thinks that the UPS man is sleeping with their wives. These companies are the UPS man, our games are the wives, and we're just sitting in the cuck chair in a hotel room watching these companies screw us over time and time again while we convince ourselves that everything will be alright. But spoiler alert, that's a lie. I think that this future for gaming is very bleak, and that handing companies this much control is a horrible idea that is just going to end up backfiring. But what do you think? Are you fine with these practices? Do you think this is just another way for these companies to try to get rid of the secondhand market? Let me know down below. And if you like this kind of content, consider subscribing. I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.